What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and welcome to Talking Comics Live on New Comic Book Day, January 6, 2021. Of course, the DC books came out last week, but anyway, tonight we will be chatting live with you about today's new comics. We'll do so in a non-spoilerish way, for the most part, I hope so. And the way we'll break this down is I'm going to be revealing my top 10 comic books of the week. And then at about 8 o'clock Central Time, we will be joined by Mike, the Voice Matthews. That's right. Mike06 will be joining us to chat about today's comics, lots of future state and all that kind of jazz. Before we get into the top 10 tonight, first of all, Station, how is everybody doing? I do want to go ahead and talk about this one. King in Black, Return of the Valkyries. It somehow found its way out of my stack yesterday, and I didn't have a chance to review it for the weekly comic book review. So I read it today, and what did I think? I thought it was kind of, it was all right. Like, it was decent. If you are a fan of this iteration of Valkyrie, and they're introducing, I guess, a more Tessa Thompson version of Valkyrie in here as well to the MC, or to the 616. So it's good for Valkyrie fans, but how is this a King in Black tie-in? It picks up a little bit after the alleged death of the Sentry. So Valkyrie obviously, leads souls to the afterlife or whatever, but I thought it was kind of mediocre. And I'll be honest, so far I've been incredibly unenamored with the King in Black tie-ins. So King in Black itself, though, I've been really, really liking. Really, really, really liking. So now it's time for the top 10. So bear the awkwardness of this transaction. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for my top 10 comic books of the week. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and tonight we are going to be talking about my top 10 comic books of the week. First up, number 10, MODOK Head Games, number 2. I love this book. It's so silly. It's so fun, but at the same time, it never betrays the character of MODOK. I love it. It's comic book accurate. It's got a lot of throwbacks. This issue is mostly a team up between Tony Stark, Iron Man, and MODOK, and it is hilarious, but at the same time, just really, really fun. It's got a lot of action, lots of comedy, and it just hits those right notes for me. Like I said, lots of old school type stuff. I'll show you a little bit of the art, but I really like the art style. It really helps, along with the whole zany approach of the story. I'm loving this. I thought it was super, super cool. You get an appearance by the Silver Centurion armor. MODOK Head Games, number 2 at number 10. So there you go. At number 9, we've got Dark Knight's Death Metal, number 7. This is the final issue of Death Metal. First of all, love that cover. I love anything that's shiny and glossy and hollow foil. Can we get some hollow foil back in our lives, please? Anyway, Death Metal to me was a great, fantastic, bombastic finale to this really utterly ridiculous, nonsensical, and utterly amazing and awesome and BA miniseries. I absolutely love it. If you like crisis events, if you like DC multiverse shakeups, if you like all of that cosmic craziness, which I do, this was your book, and I loved it. I went along for the ride. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo were both having an incredibly great time making this book. You can totally tell Death Metal totally sets up a really great some great possibilities for the future of DC, leading into some of the stuff we'll be talking about in this top 10 video. But I thought it was a great finale, big, bombastic, giant battles, and the character notes and an arc of Wonder Woman in here, and what Wonder Woman represents, which is truth, and the idea that all the stories matter. And then the antithesis of that being the Darkest Night, the Batman Manhattan Who Laughs, which just represents nothing, utter nihilism, right? I love it. I thought they did such a great job with this finale. That's like Rockin Robbie fanboy type stuff. That's the comic book. Those are the type of comic books I loved reading growing up and still love today. So that was number 9, Dark Knight's Death Metal. At number 8, Future State. Hey, Wonder Woman. I really like this. Introduction of a new character, Yara Flor. You get a little bit of her in Death Metal there. I really like this. Joelle Jones. I didn't show you any artwork from... I'm going to have to start showing more artwork. Anyway, Joelle Jones's artwork here is crisp. It is clean. The layouts are great. It's got an excellent sense of pace. It's an interesting character. She's got a completely different attitude from Diana. This is set a little bit in the future. I had a lot of fun with this. And one of the things I said in the weekly comic book review was that Future State felt energized. It felt like these creators had some really great ideas, maybe even bold at times, and they just wanted to go with it. And they're having a lot of fun, and it feels fresh. And this is what Wonder Woman felt like to me. Joelle Jones feels like this is just top level performance for her right now in her career. The writing is sharp, the dialogue is snappy, and the artwork is so freaking clean. I loved it. So at number 8, that was Future State, Wonder Woman. At number 7, Thor. I should have put it at number 4, right? At number 7, we got Thor number 11. I'm really, really liking Donny Cates' Thor. I think it was Marvel's best comic book of the year of 2020. The artwork by Nick Klein has gotten better and better and better. And Donny Cates is able to take some fun ideas, and that's what he does, like bar talk, comic book bar talk that somebody would have, right? This is the type of ideas that you would come up with, is the kind of thing like, what if Donald Blake just went batshit insane and was crazy and evil, right? And just wreaked havoc on the earth while Thor was trapped in this pocket dimension. That's what's going on right now. And it feels so exciting. It's so connected to what's come before, but different. And like, it's got this like rock and roll type vibe to it that you get in a lot of Donny Cates books. Donny Cates had some really great books this week. Thor making it on the list at number 7. At number 6, Future State, Harley Quinn. This was like my biggest shocker of the week, was how much I loved this Harley Quinn book. So I already like Stephanie Phillips' work a little bit, but I'm really liking A Man Among You. So I was excited to see what she was going to bring to the character. This is not, and it's very obviously known out there, not one of my favorite characters in comics. But I really like this issue. So it's set in the Future State Batman world, in which Gotham is... all of the laws are enforced by the magistrate. There's no more GCPD. It's the magistrate, privatized corporate law enforcement, I guess. The artwork in here, by the way, by DeMeo is absolutely fantastic. With Bonvillain's coloring, it pops. DeMeo's artwork, for me, on We Only Find Them When They're Dead, is just a bit too murky and dark. But here with Bonvillain's talents, oh my goodness, it's popping like crazy. So I love the artwork. Just this futuristic Gotham. It's only 5 years from now, but the magistrate, they've outlawed masks and vigilantes. If you get caught wearing a mask, they shoot you on sight. So it's a really intense world. And the magistrate gets Harley Quinn to join up with them to help them track down other criminals and vigilantes. But this was a really fun book with a high level of energy that was absolutely fantastic. 6, Future State, Harley Quinn. At number 5, we've got The Next Batman. Wait, did I do that right? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Yeah, at number 5, The Next Batman. I really like this one. Future State Next Batman. Unfortunately, it's $7.99 because it's got 3 stories. Now, the main story, which is the Next Batman story, is fantastic. The artwork by Nick Darrington, I just love. And the coloring by Tamara Bonvillain, oh my goodness. Go figure that some of the best art in DC Comics this week was colored by Tamara Bonvillain. So I really liked this story. It's got a great pace to it. It's written by John Ridley. It's a brand new version of Batman set in that world with the magistrate that we talked about. He's badass, and I believe it already. We already know who it is, even though in this book they pretend to not know who. They pretend like we don't know who it is. So I don't know if I should say, but we all know who it is. But I had a lot of fun with this book. Then there's the Outsider story, and it's okay. It was pretty solid, actually. I liked it. Katana, Black Lightning, Duke Thomas type stuff, but set in this futuristic, well, it's 5 years later, but it got really cyberpunk. The colors pop. It's so much. There's energy. There's life. That's something that has been brought out post death metal into DC was life. We were so fearful of 5G, and what it wound up merging and becoming after Dan DiDio got canned was this really, I would say, hopeful look, even though some of the books are not very hopeful at all. It gives me hope for DC Comics, because it seemed like at times they were maybe going the wrong path, but they've got some talent right now that just feels incredibly enthusiastic. The last story in here, Arkham Knights, which was written by Paul Jenkins, I didn't like that one. So is it worth the $7.99? I don't know. I would definitely want to say recommend getting the trade, which should be cheaper if it's just that. But I have a feeling they're going to put those backups in the trade as well. So I figure either way, you're screwed. So that was number 5, The Next Batman. Number 4, Scout's Honor. Scout's Honor is from Aftershock. It's a new one from David Pepose. He was the writer of Spencer and Locke, also the writer of Going to the Chapel. I am a big fan of his work. We had him on the show. He's a super cool dude. The artwork is by Luca Casalonguida, something like that. This is the same artist who did Lost Soldiers recently with Alesh Kott that just wrapped up like last week. The style of art is different, but it still has so much dynamic flair to it. It's a different tone, which is way more appropriate for this book, which is like a post-apocalyptic world, and society has rebuilt itself around the Boy Scouts manual, right? So it's this like hyper-survivalist, ultra-masculine reality that's kind of crazy with a little bit of like Lord of the Flies thrown in or something. I don't know. I really, really like this book. I thought it was a great concept, and David Pepose does a great job of nailing that concept, enticing us through the issue with the main character's journey, and it's absolutely fantastic, and it's hooking, and it's great, and it sets up some interesting stuff to come, and I'm really excited to see this world explored. That was absolutely fantastic. Number 4, Scout's Honor. At number 3, Future State, Swamp Thing. This one's written by Rom V. It's got artwork by Mike Perkins. And let me tell you something. If you like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, and if you like the Scott Snyder Swamp Thing, which I do, and if you like Swamp Thing, I don't think there's any reason why you won't like this one. Now, this one's set in a future state very far away. I think it's like set 1,000 or more years in the future. Something terrible has happened, wiped out most of mankind. Swamp Thing's alone, but he's created these like these vegetable people, you could say, basically, that live, and he's kind of like their king and leader, and they're out on the hunt for humans. But it leads to a lot of interesting conversations about why are humans so important when we are building a new society, and Swamp Thing's trying to reconnect to something that he feels he's lost. And Rom V just does a great job with this. Mike Perkins' artwork is great. This respects everything that's come before. It's got a little tinge of Alan Moore, but it's all Rom V. The subtext is there. The dialogue is so melancholical at times. It will hurt your soul. It is perfect for Swamp Thing. I freaking love that. Number 3, Future State Swamp Thing. At number 2, Crossover. Number 3. This book blew me away. I thought issue 1 was pretty solid. I thought 2 was just a little bit of a dip. Issue 3 was explosively awesome. Now, maybe most of my reaction is based on what happens on the last page of Crossover, but I'll tell you this. If you get to that and you know me, you know I flipped my lid for that. I absolutely loved it. I love this Todd McFarlane cover. Donny Cates really starts, now that he's spent so long in issue 2 especially, of establishing more of the characters and their future motivations, if you will. Now we're getting to it. The characters are moving briskly to the next place to be ready for the next act of the story. Everything's really starting to happen. The crossovers start for real. Some really great stuff, some throwbacks to some previous Donny Cates work. And like I said, a wham bang finish that I absolutely love. Took me by complete surprise because I knew we'd even talked at one point on this channel live that this was a possibility. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then the way that they did it, the reveal, was absolutely fantastic. This makes me feel the joy Donny Cates has being a fan of comics and a creator of comics. And Jeff Shaw's artwork's getting sharper and cleaner and leaner and meaner. In other words, that rhyme with Eaner. Anyway, and my number 1 book was The Dreaming Waking Hours, issue number 6. This one blew me away. I didn't show you artwork from Crossover. Show you a little bit here, but the artwork gets a lot leaner and I think a little bit more solidified. And like I said, the story really, really picks up, and it's got a slam bang of a finale that I absolutely loved, cherished, and adored. So there you go. So number 1 was The Dreaming Waking Hours. First of all, The Dreaming has been a great series since the Sandman Universe stuff kind of relaunched at the tail end of Vertigo, the beginning of DC Black Label. This was great. First of all, look at the cover. G. Willow Wilson's been doing a great job following up what Simon Spurrier did by telling a completely different story. And now that she's completed her first arc, She gets to do a little bit of an intermission type story that focuses on some other elements and characters that were established in the previous arc. Really, really like this one. But the main pull and the main reason why it's the pick of the week for me is Javier Rodriguez's artwork. Oh my goodness. And he colored it himself as well. I have always loved this cat's artwork. He did an Exile series not too long ago at Marvel with Saladin Ahmed. He did that History of the Marvel Universe book with Mark Waid. If you love these elegant and masterful and bold panel designs and compositions on the page and beautiful color at times, look at that. The club scene. Oh my goodness. I loved the art in this. I loved the story. It has Constantine in it. It throws it around. I think that this has been a great book. It's been undersung, underappreciated. I think it just was recently announced that it's going to 12 issues and then it will wrap up. But there's been a great story and a great thread with a lot of respect for what Neil Gaiman has built for the Sandman universe and The Dreaming. So that is my top 10 comic books of the week. Let's run through them again. Number 10, MODOK, Head Games. Number 2. Number 9, Dark Knight's Death Metal, number 7, final issue. Number 8, Future State, Wonder Woman, number 1. Number 7, Thor, number 11. I like that rhymes. Thor, number 7, Thor, number 11. It does rhyme, actually. Number 6, Future State, Harley Quinn. Number 5, Future State, The Next Batman. Number 4, Scout's Honor. Number 1. Number 3, Future State, Swamp Thing. Number 2, Crossover. Number 3, and my number 1 comic book of the week, The Dreaming, Waking Hours, number 6. There you go. That was my top 10 comic books of the week. Let me know your top 10, your top 5, your top whatever down in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. I've been Rockin Robbie Billups. Station. Keep on reading. All right. So now we got 10 minutes till Mike shows up. So we can chat for just a little bit longer here because we're not quite ready. Hey, Jim Mintz in the house. Jim, I watched your video. You are 100% right. Me and Jim wound up having some almost near identical thoughts about the Future State books. So if you have been worried about the state of DC and in fact the state of Future State, we would say that in the first week, pretty solid. I really liked Harley Quinn, the main story of Next Batman. That would be a way better book and would really get a lot more attention if it was $4.99 and just the Batman story. I think that would probably garner a better response. But the Next Batman I liked, Wonder Woman I loved, Harley Quinn I loved, Superman was iffy. That's only for like diehard read Superman no matter what kind of people. Flash I did not like. And Swamp Thing was great. Swamp Thing was my favorite out of them. But anyway, Jim Mintz in the house. And we got Sleepy Reader 666 in the house. What's up? Oh, The Dreaming was great, homie. The Dreaming, the artwork was amazing. I freaking loved it. Haven't gotten any of today's books, says Fable. Can't wait till they come in. All you guys who were shorted, I know Jim was shorted. His Marvel and indies and whatnot. Jim, you should check out, if you do, when you go pick them up, you should check out Scout's Honor. I'd love to know what you thought about that. It's a world that it's post-apocalyptic and its society has rebuilt itself based on the Boy Scout manual. Like that's like their 10 commandments. There's even like a statue of the dude holding like the 10 rules of the Boy Scouts or whatever, be prepared and blah, blah, blah. It was wild. It was really cool. I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, there was Jim right there. And where was Sleepy Reader? I missed him. Where was he? Anyway, he's here. Yeah, there he goes. Sweet, haven't got my comics yet. Great to hear The Dreaming made it to number 1. Yeah, it was nice. It was one of those weeks where I was like, there was so much that I really actually enjoyed. But what stood out? And to me, what stood out to me was, first of all, crossover because of the ending. And I loved it so much. And we're not going to spoil it. Man, the artwork in The Dreaming just enamored me all the way through. Jim has read Crossover 3 was great too. Jim, I loved Crossover. I really wasn't feeling issue 2, but man, holy cow. I loved that issue of Crossover. And I got the McFarlane cover where she's reading Spawn because, I'm a Spawn fan now. Almost a year strong being a Spawn fan. I've made it through 85 issues, but we're trucking through. Right now, I've been bogged down in some new X-Men. Grant Morris, not bogged down. I like it. It's just I haven't been able to find too much time because we're trying to start production on Comics Revisited soon. Grab the Future State Teen Titans one. Yeah, that's going to be the first appearance of some character. What is it? Mr. Red X? I don't know. It's from the cartoon, but it's the first comic book appearance, I believe. But first appearances this week, the big ones, I guess, would be next Batman. But it's not a first appearance of that character, but it's the first appearance of that character as Batman. And then Yara Flora, obviously, but they also both have cameos in Death Metal 7. And then, but it's up to the market to decide what's more valuable, right? But they just appear in like one little panel at the end of Death Metal. But I had so much fun with Future State. I really freaking did. Now, here's the thing, though. I got this feeling at the beginning of Rebirth. I got this feeling at New 52. I got this feeling 1 year later, post-Infinite Crisis. I got this feeling when I was a kid reading John Byrne's Superman books that came out right post-Crisis. So DC's really good at like starting a new line with fresh energy and excitement. But the problem is, how long can they sustain that? So we'll start seeing. Will Harley Quinn be good? And here's the cool thing is, I at first was a little bothered, I would say, that the same creative teams were carrying on to the main universe books starting in March. But after this, no. Like, yeah, I want this Harley Quinn. I want this Harley Quinn team. That's what I want. I want Rom V on Swamp Thing for sure, obviously. Thought it was Clown Hunter from the jump. Yeah, but Future State has an end date. Yes, we're rhyming all night tonight. Future State does have an end date, just 2 months long, but we know that the Yara Flora is getting a series in some form or another. I think it's because they're doing a Wonder Girl show, because I think what they're showing here is her as Wonder Woman, and then we're going to see other books like Superman Wonder Woman is going to be her, and I think it's Connor. But I think she's older there or young. I don't know. But like they're doing Yara Flor as an HBO Max or a CW show, and she's getting her own book by Joelle Jones. So that's cool. I have a lot of feeling that the next Batman will probably continue as well. But we shall see how briskly they wrap that up. But I think they're going to keep this. And the beautiful thing about it, about Future State and what's going on, is this is basically what Death Metal has done. And we're going to say this real quick, and then we'll go to a break. And then Mike will be joining us. But so I don't know how many people remember the concept of hyper time, but the idea was, okay, so pre-crisis, a jumble of different stories and just a multiverse, like crazy multiverse. Oh, this happens here. This doesn't fit in continuity. Oh, that happened on Earth JQ4, things like that. And it was just something, for the most part, it developed because of editorial's need to satisfy fan curiosity about how it all fit together. And then it became this convoluted mess. And so DC decided to just wipe it all out and start fresh with one solid universe. And that was the DC universe that I was introduced to. So that's the DC universe for a lot of people. But then they have brought back the multiverse. But before they did that, there was all these, that's when they started doing Elseworlds, right? And so these books were labeled Elseworlds, meaning that they were just, it didn't matter. They weren't part of continuity. But now they are. They're just part of an outer omniverse. What's the difference between the omniverse and the multiverse? Well, the multiverse was established to be 52. Now, Grant Morrison already said in Multiversity that there were 52 multiverses, and then probably another set of 52. So I think that still doesn't change much. It is still an omniverse, but it also adds in the idea of hyper time back into the DC universe, which has already started to fluctuate back in throughout the end of Rebirth and into all the stuff that Snyder was doing and building up to with Death Metal. So hyper time is the idea of the future being in a fluid state, meaning that this future state stuff are stories that exist and we can explore, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the future of DC, because it can shift and change and morph. So really, did anything change? Not really. But it just gives them the ability to just justify, I should say, going forward with publishing stories that are a little bit more diverse and set in a myriad of characters across multiple timelines. So that's pretty much it. Anyway, now we're about to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be chatting for an hour about today's new comics in a non-spoilerish way with Mike06. We'll be right back here on Pop Culture Philosophers. And we are back. Welcome back, PCP Army, to Talking Comics Live for a new comic book day, January 6, 2021. And we are now joined by the one, the only Mike06. What's up, Mike?
What's up, everybody? How you doing today? Station.
Everybody out there. Thank you for bearing with us through the top 10, everybody. It's a little weird doing it this way. I haven't quite nailed the flow yet, but we'll get it. We'll get it more solid. But I like the more loose flow. Anyway, how is everybody doing? We're going to continue talking about comic books just like we've been doing. All the new stuff today, lots of new stuff from DC, Future State, a whole slate of new issues. We keep rhyming tonight, Mike. Before you were gone, we were like, number 8 is Future State. Oh, number Thor. Number 7 is Thor. Number 11. It was really great. It was fantastic. Anyway. So lots of new number ones. Eternals, you notice it wasn't on my top 10. Anyway, so first of all, Mike, I got the saffron IPA I'm going to try.
All right.
Mike gave me this. I like the IPAs, and I'm going to try this. And as I try this, Mike, I want you to tell everybody what your favorite comic book you read today was. And remember, no spoilers.
Are you in a fish tank?
What do you mean?
Because your audio keeps going in and out.
Maybe it's you.
It's me?
I don't know. I hear you going in and out. How does my audio sound, everybody? Do I sound fine? Am I going in and out? I just turned me up a little bit. Anyway, Mike. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
What's
your favorite book that you read today?
Probably Crossover. I'd have to say that's probably my favorite book of the day. It was really fun. It was super enjoyable. It's issue 3 of the current ongoing series. I liked 1 and 2. I know a lot of people did not like 2 because it was just more talky and less actiony. This one had a big reveal at the end, which was kind of cool. I think that will be lost on some people though, just because of who the character is. But if you're a member of the PCP Army, or if you watch this channel, you should be a little familiar with the character. So. But yeah, that was my pick.
Nice. I really liked it. Am I going in and out still?
No, you're not going in and out.
I think I just had the mic too low or maybe too far away, and between us both talking, it was kind of StreamYard does that, I think. What's up, Chamorro Cinema? How are you doing? And look, John Hammertime Holshoe is here. At least I think it's that John Hammertime Holshoe. There's another John Holshoe, but he's not Hammertime. But he is out there. on social medias. You can find him. In fact, if you think you follow this John on social, you probably follow him. But
is he an alien?
I thought Crossover was great, to be honest with you, man. And yeah, I was a little down on the second issue because I thought it was a little talky. It was a little bit of a lull, but somebody or multiple people were telling me that and if you think about it, most of Donny Cates' books, first issue is pretty solid. The second issue, the lulls a little bit, and it's mostly because he's setting and ramping us up for the third issue. Now, it works so great as reading it as a trade. Issue to issue, though, when you're buying, say, I don't know, like $100 of comics every couple weeks, right?
Right.
Sometimes you don't give issues so long, but Donny Cates has kind of earned the right from the fandom to pay more attention, and they already had us with this Spawn cover. So
yeah,
I thought
one of the things that too, like talking about that, because I have it right here. The when it starts off, it starts off at 5 years ago. Once upon a time, there was a comic book. So like when you read 2, like it's like, okay, now it's got you hooked. It's kind of like a fresh starting point. It's not really. I mean, I guess how many issues is this?
I think it's set up to be as long as they want. I don't know if it's. I think some people have said that it's supposed to be a mini series, but I haven't heard anything. But then again, they don't let you know how long something's going to run usually anymore.
True, but like I was fine with it. It's set up. It felt like it set up a new It felt like it set up a new chapter. 1 and 2 was a solid. Like I read those back to back. I didn't read 1 when it came out. What do you think?
I don't like it right now, man. We'll have to see. You know how beer is sometimes. I think it's made with saffron, right?
It's got saffron in it, yeah.
I don't know if that's a good idea for me. I don't like that.
Well, I mean, just let it.
Interesting. It's got. I don't know. I'm very basic when it comes to my IPAs. I like the citrusy West Coasty ones. But my favorites are like double IPAs. But we're talking about beer. But Crossover was great. I'm glad you like it. It also, I said this in my top 10 segment, but you can feel Donny Cates' level of enthusiasm for being a comic book fan and now somebody who is privileged enough to create these things,
Yeah, I thought this was done really well. I love all the little, I guess everything about this was just, it was fun. And then carrying off of issue 2, and then even the quote unquote bad guy, there's still a lot going on. Like you got a lot real heavy in issue 2 with the bad guy. So, but then you got this little bit with him. So is it that bad?
I'm trying, man.
So
I'm trying.
I mean, it's not for everybody. The first time I had it, it was at an Indian fusion restaurant. So like all the different spices and the heat, it was a wonderful blend.
It would probably be a different experience if I was eating Indian food right now, to be honest with you. So I can see how that, yeah.
So I guess that's where like I'm a little, and I've had a lot of the other matcha stuff, so and I've really enjoyed it.
All right,
but
anyway, yeah, comics and beer. So Crossover was great. Let's get into the future state-ness of things. Well, no, we talked about future state a little bit already. Let's hold that off. What did you think of Eternals?
It's a big epic that's trying to be epic. That's trying to be too epic. It was okay. It wasn't great. I don't have a lot of issues with it. I'll probably get crucified for saying this, but I do not like Kieran Gillian at Marvel or DC. His work is just okay.
I don't know if any DC's done, but
it's just okay.
I think I can agree with you on that.
His independent stuff is so much better to me. In my like, I've enjoyed his independent stuff more than I have his mainstream, and it's just like it's like it's trying to be epic, but it doesn't just have that. It feels like it's trying to be forced. Of like,
I'm being honest. I'm looking back at his Marvel thing, and I'm thinking Thor, X-Men, yeah, Iron Man. Yeah, his Young Avengers. He did the Young Avengers run. That was pretty decent, right? Didn't he do that run with McKelvey? Was that him?
Josh Rosenbaum did that created it.
No, the Young Avengers is like another run, but Jason McKelvey did the artwork on, or James McKelvey.
I might have not read that. His name might have been on it, and I didn't realize his name was on this till I actually finished reading it. So,
yeah, I feel you there. I love Wicked and the Divine, and there are elements of the Eternals that feel like that with the cyclical nature of the rebirth and all that kind of stuff. But
it's just I don't think he can. Like, he has the chance of doing this with the Eternals, but I think with being at Marvel, his hands are tied and he can't go into the deep end. We can't go. I mean, he's not Donny Cates. He just can't come up with it, with whatever.
All right. And another thing, me and you are both Jack Kirby fans.
Right.
But you may be like me. And honestly, I've never really read Jack Kirby's Eternals. I know of the Eternals basically through their involvement in the Marvel Universe and some of the more recent miniseries they've done over the last few years. You know what I'm saying? The Neil Gaiman, the Chuck Austin, the stuff we were talking about earlier.
Right.
I'm more familiar with that. But when I think of like Kirby and cosmic Eternals and all this kind of ideas, I'm thinking of that Kirby art. And I'm thinking of something that's going to be poppy and in your face and big and bolsterous. And I mean, obviously, Asad Ribic's got his style, and he does a great job with what he does. But this book didn't feel fun. It didn't feel enthusiastic. Now, maybe it's because juxtapositioning it against DC Future State, which, even though they have very dour looks and dreary looks on the possible futures of DC, they're very bright and hopeful and optimistic feeling books.
Now, are we allowed to show things that happen inside the book?
If it's not spoiled, you can usually only show the first few pages. You can show.
It's the first scene in New York.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll show that page. Like, that's where the art. That's some great stuff right there. But
like, this is where, like, there's no spoiler in this, but this is what I'm talking about. Like, it just doesn't pop. Like, it's New York. Like, this character just is first just in New York City through a portal, and it's just kind of like. It's just very drab. Like, there's not a lot of, like, it's New York City. It's bright, big,
yeah,
tons of color, not this drab look. And it's just like and it's just funny as the page before, it's the complete opposite. It's very bright. So it makes no sense. So.
Yeah, Ed Yeto says, I would have preferred something more Kirby-ish. Yeah.
Who was the dude that worked with Joe Casey back in the Cable run?
Ladron
that had that Kirby style.
Jose Ladron. He did the cover of DC Future State Batman.
Oh man,
he did the cover of that.
He would have been great for this.
Yeah, he did a great 4-issue Inhumans miniseries, like back in the early 2000s, late 90s, something like that. And Fable points out, like it's 50 plus variants for Eternal, which the movie's not out yet. Obviously, we're still a ways away from that. And it's not a known property. And it feels like the level of expectation out of Marvel for this book is really high, but the level of anticipation from the community has been pretty small. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, people aren't hyped up about this Eternals book. And after reading it, I don't think there's a reason to be. Now, there's some cool ideas in it. And at times it gets a bit Hickman-y at times when it starts doing this stuff, but it's basically just trying to break down who these people are, how they're related to these different houses and this and that. But I don't know.
It's more like, I guess we've never, with the Kirby stuff, we had to find the single issues. It was never really collected in trade. So we never really had a chance to sit down and read it. It's one of those, like, I want to read it, but like I've never had the trade.
Well, luckily they're putting it back in print because of the upcoming movie.
So maybe it's one of those, like the Neil Gaiman Eternals was that was different. So that was an intro outside of the main character in this story and Cersei. Like, that's my only acknowledgement of whatever ones were in the Eternals.
Yeah. Nick says 99% of the public doesn't even know the Eternals. They haven't even started promoting the movie yet. So there is no hype outside of the small hype we have, really. 100%. 100%. Let's move on to something else. What else did you read, Mike, that you liked? That you want to chat about? What do you want to chat about in the out there in the community? Let us know.
Scout, you want to talk about Scout's Honor?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I already ranted and raved about it. So what'd you think?
Man, a lot of cool concepts, a lot of cool ideas. The one big stereotypical trope in comic books, it doesn't be needed. It really doesn't need to be needed. It doesn't, if you get what I'm saying without spoiling it.
Yeah, I know.
But other than that, I enjoyed it. I like that. I like the idea that it's the Boy Scouts that has survived, and everybody's got and the army's based off of that. And it's kind of an interesting take. So I do like that. I do like that idea and concept about it. So
yeah, I think that David Pepose does a great job of coming up with interesting concepts and sometimes a lot of mashup concepts, and like taking the idea of the Boy Scouts and throwing it into post-apocalyptic fiction, right? And he does a great job of throwing us into the world, introducing it. You know, I get the trope that you're talking about with the main character, but I think that there's a point that there's going to be about that as the story progresses. But at the same time, the character was compelling, and you're feeling that character's journey. And so I pretty much thought it was pretty solid. I put it at number 4 in my top 10, I think. So Flo Jim is in the house. What's up, my man? Station.
What's up, Slow Flo? So Flo, blah, blah. I have a hard time saying that. DC
increased prices. Are you guys going forward with DC? I mean, I have the benefit of being able to read these things before I buy them, so I have that benefit. The DC books going forward, I don't think they're going to be as drastic as $7.99 for Batman. They're going to be like $4.99 or something. They're going to have smaller backup stories. Hopefully they'll be good. The first Batman ones are going to be like Damian stories, I think, by Joshua Williamson. So that seems neat. I'm excited to check it out. If I find the content worth it, I don't have a problem with $4.99 price, but it's DC just uses that. They add content whenever they increase their prices. And me and Bueller were talking about this on New Year's Eve, and if you really think about it, look at all of DC's history. For a big chunk of that history, their best-selling comic books were anthologies or main titles that had a lot of backups and stuff, right? Now, obviously, that's not been the case for the last several decades. But it's nice, I think. It's a nice throwback to kind of go back to that at times to help justify a price increase. But let's not single out DC. Look at your Marvel comics this week. Your Amazing Spider-Man post-mortem, by the way, that thing was $4.99. So this has been happening, and it hasn't just been DC. It's been across the board. Even Scout's Honor is a $4.99. Now, for first issues, you kind of get that, but a random issue of Spider-Man, Eternals was the first issue. It's $4.99, but you're getting more of these really expensive books, and so far, we're still kind of eating it up. What do you think about that, Mike?
Drawing the line at $2.99.
Bro, that was like 10 years ago.
I know, but it's so funny that like that's where that we had the same issue where it was $2.99 to $3.99. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm paying $3.99 for Batman. Like, this is absurd and ridiculous. 10 years later, now we're at $4.99. In 10 more years, it'll be at $5.99. In 20 years, it'll be $6.99. And then eventually you're going to be paying $10 for a comic book. But then, you know, inflation and whatnot, but you're going to get more to it. And it's just, I mean, that you get a better quality of paper. You're getting, it's the cost of having to print stuff. And if you want good quality, you're going to have to pay for it. And that's passed down, unfortunately, to us, the consumer. So
the quality of the DC books this week are way better than the Marvel comics. Marvel, as we all know, they've been flimsy, light, easily damaged just by reading them, which I don't think is something cool, because you want to inspire comic book collecting and you want to inspire comic book reading. But the DC books are nice, thick. They got a nice, sturdy paper stock, and I had a lot of fun with it. Now, Sleepy, I know what you're talking about the more content doesn't always cut it. You're right. Most of these backup stories, nobody's going to care about. I think the majority of people are not going to give a crap about Outsiders or Arkham Knights in the next Batman and not feel like it justifies the book being $7.99. The Batman story is pretty fire, though. Now, here's the thing. Maybe DC doesn't care so much about that because they're just thinking about maybe we could put the next Batman bits together as a trade, a graphic novel, put it in bookstores and sell it for $15, $17 or something like that. So they are seeing a lot of growth on the bookstore market, like through graphic novels, and they're seeing a lot of growth digitally. So maybe they're trying to think more like that. There are more anthologies going forward in DC. We talk about Future State, we talk about the teams carrying over, but they are still definitely doing more and more anthologies going forward. They've announced yet another Batman anthology with the Batman Urban Legends. They got the Superman Red, White, or Red and Blue, which I'm excited about because they got Dan Waters and Danny doing a freaking Superman story. But it's up to you as the consumer, and you don't have to consume everything in floppy. But to me, it's like right now, I personally collect more DC than I do Marvel, but I collect more indie than both of them. But it's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, just feeling the card stock on like. Did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay, did you read it? I didn't know if you read it or not.
Of course, I read it. Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid, fun, simple fairy tale type story.
Very Disney-esque.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I can understand. Like, this one's also another one that's $4.99, and it's just
how many pages are in it?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a good bit of work in here, but it's also.
We'll point out though that like some issues of Image Comics are well over the typical standard 22 pages and still at $3.99.
Yeah, but this has got like I was doing the whole, since I do a lot of stuff with the posters now. I've been starting to pay attention to cardstock and different things, and like this one, the inside and this cover is awesome, and like this is a little bit of a step down, but it's still real durable, and like this Marvel one is just yeah.
The problem with the Aftershock ones is they'll do the $4.99 for the first issue, and it'll have that nice cardstock cover, but it will just be for the first issue. Almost as if they know that that's going to be the one everybody's going to want if the story gets optioned.
Fair. Well, that's smart thinking on them because I mean it's kind of even if they keep the cardstock at the one that Boombox was on for Last Witch, that would have it's still thicker than Marvel's. Yeah. Marvel's it just feels like the front cover feels like the inside, so it's all big. One big.
I think it's literally the same paper stock. Like literally.
Yeah. And it's paper stock does matter, and when coming on to, and I can understand why people like Walking Dead and people would do black and white books because it's cheaper to print on black and white than it is color, and so you can have a super nice quality of paper done in black and white, and like I think that would be a drastic. It's not. I think it's better than having low quality paper with color. So
and it's crazy, I think, for us to sit here and say, "Oh, these books are $5 now. Batman's $8." Man, not me, not Mike, not a lot of y'all, but some people, some of y'all, sometimes me, sometimes maybe Mike, will pay a lot more than that for a comic book sometimes just because of the cover. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
$25 incentives, exclusive variants for $10, $15, $30.
Yeah, my department. My TMNT number 1, Last Ronin, paid way more just because that's what I wanted because it looked awesome.
Yeah. So but, I don't think you're going to find anybody that argues that comic books are not too expensive. We all think that comic books are too expensive, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and they have to pay everybody. Everybody needs to get their pay, and it's just I had the awakening of how much stuff costs when it was kind of like, oh, I'm thinking like it's X amount, but then it's just like, oh shit, like that's more than I thought it was. So it's just like, oh, okay, that's how it's done. Okay, but yeah,
who was the old guy at the end of Generation Shattered? Who was the old guy? I don't remember that now. Oh, that is it's kind of spoilery, but I'll tell you this: it is a character that Dan Jurgens has used a lot. And there was a certain run of Superman in the 90s, from Superman Forever and on. They told this one big story, and it involved this guy. And so he's from the Superman books and a lot of other Dan Jurgens, like Linear Men, all that time travel-y, Booster Gold-y type stuff he does. I don't know if he ever showed up in a Booster Gold book, but I first met him in a Superman book, and it was the post-Superman Forever stuff. It was literally the story, the big epic story that happened after he was blue and red. And remember when he was split and then he came back together, and Alex Ross had that great lenticular cover. Do you remember that, Mike? And then they introduced the mystery of this character. So
you said that's the villain of this book?
That's the guy who shows up at the end. Do you know what I'm talking about? He's kind of, right? He's the villain. What?
Yeah.
At the very end.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't know who that character is, but I did. Because of this random ass run of Superman that I don't think anybody read but me.
That was right before all the DC 1 million stuff, wasn't it?
Yes. Or maybe it was aroundish. Yeah, it's right before, during, maybe even. Like in that same era, in that same way, because it was right after Superman lost his electric powers, which happened in Justice League like 20-something, like when it started getting reflected, I think, was the World War III story or something. Crisis Times 5 story, something. I can show you some of the issues tomorrow or whatever.
I know. Since we're on this one, do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
So I enjoyed it. I love the Old Man Booster. I thought that was great. So, but yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was. It's not. It got a little slow, a little boring in the middle, a little bit, not too much.
Yeah.
But it's great to see like everybody show up. I like how they put Commandy in charge of everything. So it's like, oh, you're gonna do time travel story. Let's have Commandy. So it's always fun to visit this character, even because a lot of his stuff just doesn't survive. Always good to see Sinestro as the hero again. So
yeah, they basically pull these different heroes, these different characters from different eras.
And I liked how the art changed throughout the issue too.
Yeah, this is compiled from those Generations one shots that got canceled that were supposed to come out last year. What I said was, this is not going to resonate with a lot of people. Like, just especially thinking that a lot of people, I think, are going to be misled into thinking that after Dark Knight's death metal, they need to read this to understand Future State, and they don't. Future State, you don't even have to read death metal to understand Future State. But I like how all the Future State books had that little blurb in the beginning that feels like a like Marvel. Like, this is basically DC 2099 almost in a way, but it's actually, and don't be confused, because every book, or at least every story, is set in a different part in the timeline. Like the Batman stories with the Magistrate don't take place at the same time Superman and Metropolis story takes place. It takes place later. And the Swamp Thing story takes place way later. And the Immortal Wonder Woman story literally takes place at the end of time. So I'm really excited about that one. And Jen Bartel's doing the artwork. So since we broached the subject, but yeah, you don't have to read this to understand any of that. But this is going to be something that's going to resonate with people that like 0 Hour and Convergence.
Yes.
In any kind of a form or fashion. So what do you think of the Future State books, Mike? Rank them. Tell me what your least favorites to your favorites. That'd be fun, right? Do that.
Well, the best one, in my opinion, was Swamp Thing.
Nice, me too.
Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Harley Quinn. Superman, Batman, and then the Flash.
You liked Superman better than Batman?
What was it about Superman? It was the Mr. Miracle story.
Okay.
So that's what I enjoyed. That I enjoyed the Mr. Miracle story more than I did the Superman story. A lot of these so far, I like the concepts. Kind of dragging on some of the execution. I don't know if it's too big or just too much. But like the Flash, like I really like that idea. Like everything about this book I like, but there was just something about it that it was just kind of like, just like it had everything to be fun, but it just wasn't fun to me. So I like the idea of what they did with the Rogues.
Yeah,
like I thought that was brilliant, but it just didn't seem fun. Sometimes maybe a little forced. So I kind of agree with what Newsflash 247 is saying. It did have a lot of that feeling. It like what's going on, like who's doing what and what's happening. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that. So Superman, the whole idea I thought was kind of just a different take. Again, it's kind of confusing because you're thrown into a middle of a time. You have to figure out what's going on in the world. Like why Jonathan has a reason for doing what he's doing. We just don't know why. And the same with like in the Batman, it's just kind of like all this stuff's going on and we're thrown in the middle of it. So it's more of like an introduction to what's happening.
Yeah.
And I just think that some of it's just
some of these are only 2 issues long and some are only 4. So they don't have much time. Like next Batman they got 4 issues. That's like the most I think out of the Batman ones have. And here's the thing with the price hikes, all the price hikes are on the books that people are going to buy anyway. Like Batman, you know what I'm saying? They know what they're doing. Batman, Superman, whatever. But it's a little shitty, when they take advantage of the titles they know people are picking up regardless. Kind of like Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, it's it's the same thing they did with drawing the line at $2.99 and New 52. Like your big key books that everybody wants to read are going to be more expensive than your mid card books. So
yeah. And they also, if you remember at that time, they started dropping pages down to 20 because they were 22 and they dropped to 20.
Yeah.
At the same time where they were doing the $2.99. Fable asks, will the Magistrate play a big role when DC proper comes back? Probably, potentially, because the creative team of Dark Detective, if you're wondering where is Bruce, you'll find out next week in Dark Detective, because that's the story that's going to follow Bruce during this timeline. And he's still out there, but he's obviously been ostracized, right? And I don't think Tynion will, but I think the Tamaki and Mora run will. I'm not mostly excited for Tamaka. I think that's her name, Mariko Tamaka, right? I've never really liked a lot of her work, though. I know she got a lot of Eisner acclaim for some book that she did. Did she do the Harley book? Breaking Glass or something like that? But anyway, I hear that one's really good, but I didn't really like her Wonder Woman run, for instance. I thought it was just kind of lackluster. It started strong when she had a good artist. Dan Mora is her artist, so maybe that has potential. So if any story is going to pick up on threads leading up to the Magistrate, it'll be that. But the beauty of Hyper Time, the beauty of the shifting timeline now, the shifting futures and omniverse aspect of DC is that it doesn't mean it leads directly into what we're reading in Future State. It most likely will not, but that is just a possible future. And they'll probably keep it going a little bit. I think they'll do a next Batman book or maybe a series of graphic novels or something like that. So we'll see.
I think a lot of people also the Mr. Miracle felt more, it had that wasted space kind of art to me, which I like.
Okay. Yeah. I actually liked the backup stories in Superman better than the Superman story. And it was opposite for me in the Batman. I loved the Batman story, but I liked Outsiders, but I did not like Arkham Knights. The artwork, though, was good on all of them.
It's the backup stories that got me on this a lot. So I love that you get this nice little Jimmy Olsen Guardian story. So it's nice to see an older version of Jimmy instead of the younger, like the more grizzled look to him.
I like that Guardian story. And isn't it Cully Hamner and Michael Oeming that do the art in that? I thought that was pretty good. It's not as expensive as the Batman because there's not as many pages. At least the Batman book is freaking thick. Yeah. But like I said, I wouldn't say paying the extra for those backup stories is worth it. The artwork on this book is so freaking good. This Gang of Banes, for instance. Oh my goodness. That's Nick Darrington and Tamara Bonvillain. I freaking love that. Look at that page right there. That's my Batman right there. I love that. That looks great. I don't even care if that's not Bruce Wayne. Artistically, that is such a perfect Batman page and composition. Look at the colors on the city, the skyline. I freaking love that. I was really surprised by Harley Quinn. You mentioned Harley Quinn as being one of your top ones.
Well, the on the whole Batman, the art is what sold me on it, and so the art and the color. But it just had this. It just had a very Batman Beyond. Like, oh, it's like we've got a new Batman. We have Terry, now we have this Batman, and like then we have Gang of Banes. We got the Joker gang. Like it just like outside of the art, but the story just felt like it was just kind of a more earlier timed whatchamacallit, Batman Beyond book.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only reason that I didn't like it. I thought I'm trying to think.
I like the beer now. All of a sudden, see this happens. The buzz starts developing a little, right? Then you start liking the beer.
I like
Something happens in 4,500. Thank you, Nick.
Harley Quinn. I just thought it was an interesting story. It felt the art felt very anime-ish. The story felt very anime-ish. So I thought it was a good blend. I got to talk to Cam about this book too, and
Do you like it?
yeah, he loved it.
Seems right up his alley.
So, and then me and Cam, we have very similar taste at times, and this is one of those times where it syncs up and matches. So, but like I thought it was a cool idea and a cool concept of what they were doing with her, and then going after everybody. So,
yeah. Bruce says we should have had Damian Wayne as the next Batman 10 years in the future. Well, we've had stories with Damian as the Batman of the future. Batman 666 is one of my favorites. But the beautiful thing about the idea of the omniverse and hypertime and the ever-shifting future timelines is that future exists out there somewhere. So it's still there, and maybe one day they can get to it. Fable says, I like the way Yara is drawn and dubbed him Wonder Woman. I bet you do, my man. I bet you do. Strickland, Jay Strick, when I talked to him today, he was like, man, why they got so much booty in Wonder Woman? I was like, I think, is she Brazilian? I don't know. Is that like a stereotype, right? The art style in Wonder Woman was really good. Joelle Jones, very clean, very measured, very precise, very energetic. I felt so much just like DC was energized this week, man.
Can you give me 1 minute?
Yeah, go for it.
I got to step away from what real quick.
Yeah, man, go for it. Yara got that badunkadunk. Yeah. You know it. I thought that there was, we've already talked about how I thought that there was just a shot of energy at DC this week. And I thought that was pretty solid. Some other books. What do y'all want to talk about? Really like the way Getting It Together ended. I thought that was a solid slice of life book. Firepower was dope. Like that. Hellions. Hellions is the X book that came out this week that I absolutely love. X Factor came out too, but I stopped reading X Factor, and I'm glad because I heard some bad things about it today. But Hellions was awesome. It came out today. We got these new, like, almost rebooted, more badass versions of Orphan Maker and Nanny and Wild Child, and I freaking love it. So you out there in the chat, this is what I want to know. If you read Future State, and yes, Stefan, I agree, Hellions is one of the best X titles. If you read Future State, what did you read? Or did you like it? What'd you like? What didn't you like? For the most part, I liked it. I like Next Batman, but it needs to be just the single story and a cheaper price. I loved Harley Quinn and Wonder Woman. Loved Swamp Thing. We haven't asked Mike about that one yet, so we'll get to that a little bit. Wonder Woman was great. I really liked him. Superman, and Flash. No, I did not like Flash. I really liked Knock 'em Dead #2. I thought it was better than issue #1. Lots of cool setups, some really creepy moments too. Elliot Rahal is a master of pacing a book through dialogue. And he does it so well in issue 2 of that. Bruce says the next Batman was not very good. He disagrees with me, and that's fine. That's the beauty of comics. We all get something different out of it. Sometimes something good, sometimes something bad. I myself loved Next Batman, but the art to me was just so freaking awesome, and I loved the story. I was really engaged. But, no. Fresh News 247, 24/7, that's what that is, says Batman, Superman, and Flash didn't really like any of them. That sucks. I really didn't like Superman and Flash. The ones I thought were the best were Swamp Thing. I mean, I think Batman starts falling back because of the extra stuff, maybe, but I really like this. I really liked Batman. I thought that was so freaking cool. But Wonder Woman and Harley, it seems like a lot of people are liking as well. Why? I think I've said plenty why I liked Next Batman. I liked the artwork. I liked the story. I liked the presentation. I thought it was really cool. What's up, Mike? Welcome back.
Thank you.
What'd you think of Harley Quinn?
Good. I liked it.
Oh, we already talked about that one. What'd you think of Wonder Woman?
It's okay. Like nothing.
Well, it's a new character. A new character introduced. This character's got a future at DC. They got a show coming out. She's going to have an ongoing series by Joelle Jones as well. A lot of people really like the artwork. I liked the character. I thought the character was great because she had a different personality and attitude from Diana. It's a different origin, but it's still connected through the world of mythology. I thought that made sense. I thought the artwork was really good.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I liked Jordi Belair's artwork in this. I thought it was fantabulous.
Well, she's the colorist. Her coloring is great. Now, Joelle Jones was the artist.
Oh.
But Belair did a great job coloring her.
Yeah, I thought that's what really stood out to me was the color in this. It's a good story. I like how it's, but it's still kind of a very Wonder Woman-ish story. So it's not. I guess when I'm comparing it,
you're saying it was okay, but it was too Wonder Woman-ish?
No, but I'm saying like I guess what I'm saying, I don't know. It's a good book. I'm going back and looking at it now, and I guess it was when they go into hell, the underworld. I think that's when it gets really good. That's when I really start to enjoy it. I guess that's when I enjoyed this book because I love that scene where the demons are just like, yeah, like here we go, like here's what's going on, and she's talking about it, and Wonder Woman's just like, I'm ready to go, and just rips it apart. So it's like it's one of those to me, like it never. I know it's a new Wonder Woman, but like it's still to me, it's just kind of like Wonder Woman. That's not. Does that make sense? Like I don't read like the last New 52 Wonder Woman was the last time I read Wonder Woman, and before that it was Maxwell Lord. So the Maxwell Lord, head snapping story.
Yeah.
So like I don't really read a lot of this character, so it just felt to me like a Wonder Woman story. Though it's got a lot of difference. I get it, but there's just so much. I don't know.
Didn't resonate with you as much.
Yeah, it felt like it was a good story, and it just felt like a Wonder Woman story.
But this was your favorite.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Tell us why.
Well, we're looking for certain things, and I loved the anatomy. Art is always the big selling point, and how to do it. Just the anatomy of, what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Without spoiling it.
Well, we already talked a little bit about how it's about Swamp Thing and this race of plant people he's created looking for the last bits of humanity. Right. Jim said it had like a water world type vibe to it, and it does. And it has a lot of throwback to Alan Moore's anatomy lesson. That's what you're referring to, right? Yeah, that stuff right there.
Yeah. Well, it's just after taking anatomy classes, it's just kind of like, oh, it's really, and knowing how each muscle is supposed to look and how they did and what they did as a plant instead, I thought that was cool. I like the fact that there's all these new characters just using different things that you never really saw Swamp Thing do. And so it's just kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. I liked it. I liked the art. The story was just kind of interesting because there's just so many different contrasting. It's kind of like it's like Swamp Thing took a little part of each of himself and made that into a person.
Yeah.
So like his anger as a character, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it felt really, it was more character driven to me. So
exactly.
Also, I guess I'm a sucker for Ron V also. So it's kind of like Donny Cates. Like I don't think I've ever seen that guy do anything wrong or bad yet.
He's an amazing writer, dude, and he's got Future State Catwoman. And then he's, of course, the most exciting thing is that he and Mike Perkins are the ongoing creative team on Swamp Thing when it returns back to normal continuity in March. Very, very exciting.
And it's just, I guess the pacing of everything in this story is done really well. And that's one thing that I think a lot of them, Batman was okay, Wonder Woman was okay, but I think this one just, it's a little slower, but less confusing. So,
okay.
I don't know. I really like it.
Good. I'm glad you did. I think Ron V is going to have a soon-to-be classic run of Swamp Thing ahead of him.
Also, the ending on that.
Yeah, the ending we don't want to spoil, but that was really exciting for some old school DC fans.
Yeah, so like for me, I guess that's why I liked it, because it was kind of like it was like the crossover ending. It was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. So Flash, what did you think about Flash?
Here's what I thought about Flash. I didn't like it. First of all, I thought the story itself was clunky. It was kind of all over the place. It had some interesting concepts, but here's the biggest thing that bothers me. DC has 100% got to be aware of how people in the community feel about the way Wally West has been treated over the last several years, right? And then to come in with Future State, brand new, here's something we could do something brand new with the Flash if we want to, right? And you go right back to the idea of Wally. He's being possessed. He's killing people in the Flash. Everybody hates him. Are you serious? That's so boring and dull. It's nice seeing the entire Flash family together, working together, but you could have done that in a different way. I would have liked to seen, I don't know, something different. I just did not like that. And the sad thing is that Flash has not been very good, in my opinion, since Joshua Williamson left. And this doesn't give me much hope for its future, but we'll see. It's just weird to me that DC hasn't recognized this yet. And they have, because they totally course corrected it in Death Metal. They did a lot of work with Wally and trying to establish him back to where he was. There's a lot of exciting things that happened at the end of Death Metal and a lot of cool setups, including some of the new versions of the Justice League. Now we'll see who's getting that aspect of it. You'll know what I'm talking about if you read Death Metal, but there's another level. It's almost like an Illuminati level of Justice League. And of that, speaking of Illuminati level, it probably will be Bendis. So we'll see. But maybe I think them doing a team book could be better, because he's got some characters he can work with in there that would be really good for him, like Black Canary and Green Arrow. So we'll see. But so far, week 1 of Future State I really liked. But yeah, I just
what was
they go right back to that shit with Wally. They go right back to messing with Wally, and I don't get it.
What else has Brandon Vietti done?
Who?
The writer was Brandon Vietti.
I don't know. I think he's been doing it recently. I'm not sure. Maybe television. Look him up. There was a question. Fable says, I noticed DC added New Frontier to their logo. Do you think it has any significance? Yes. The significance is that's the branding now, post-Future State. The branding post-Death Metal is Infinite Frontier, meaning, like we were talking about with the ever-shifting alternate futures and hyper time and the possibilities of what could happen and what will happen versus what is happening and what did happen and all this stuff. That's what Infinite Frontier means, that there's an infinite number of stories to tell, and they all matter as part of this cool new cosmology that Snyder has established.
Let's see.
Did you find out anything, Mike?
I think it's the guy that did Young Justice.
The animated show?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think he did a good job here. I don't know. That's just me, though. You said you kind of liked it, though?
I liked a lot of the concepts and a lot of the ideas, but, like, I did not care. Like, he did... Remember that he did a story in the Joe Kubert Presents little mini anthology they did a long time ago.
Okay.
But this is his first comic. So, yeah, it's got to be the same dude that did Young Justice. So
they are bringing in some TV writers. I think the guy that's going to be writing Green Lantern now is like from television or something.
And like the Young Justice show, it was okay. Like
A lot of people really like it. I always thought it was just okay too. I never really got beyond season 1 though.
Yeah, like it was just kind of, I didn't understand why people were hyping it up, because it was just kind of like, yeah, they've kind of done all this already in the old 80s and early to mid 90s, just Teen Titans. So, or it was just a Justice League story redone with kids. So
Yeah.
like, I didn't see the point. So it's one of those, just kind of like they're using Mirror Master's gun and like all the Rogue's weapons. And that's what I guess that's what I really liked about it, was just seeing all the Rogue stuff being used by the Flashes. Like Impulse being the Rainbow Warriors slide, like Impulse having fun with that. Like I thought that was a cool, interesting take, but then it was just, yeah.
Anything else you read that you'd like to talk about, Mike?
I thought Death Metal, the end of Death Metal was great, which we probably should have talked about before.
I liked it too. We got a comment from Fresh News 24/7 says, I hated Death Metal. I didn't drop it, so joke on me, but I loved the last issue. Hopefully Grant Morrison goes back to Marvel. What? Grant Morrison will never probably go back to Marvel. He definitely responds better to the DC characters. I want him to do more work at DC. I want him to do Flash. But I'm a big Grant Morrison fanboy, and I know if you don't like Grant Morrison, I understand the sentiment there then. But it's interesting. You hated Death Metal, but loved the last issue. I loved it too. I thought it was fantastic. What'd you think, Mike?
I thought it was great. I think he's, like you said before, he's speaking a lot about the society today in comics and the culture with comics, of what's going on. I like how everything is. I want to write a story just for a story, and it doesn't have to fall anywhere. It just happens, you know. It's kind of like, oh well, continuity says because of this, and I think that's a great way to stop incontinuity. Well, not really.
They're still doing incontinuity,
but not that. It's just like you can make it fit wherever you want. Like I want to go back and put this, write a 70s story of Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
where she's in the white outfit, and I can do that, and it's fine because it fits.
And it was fine before. So I mean, they didn't, like I said, they didn't really necessarily change anything as far as publishing goes, but just the idea that it all is now connected in some kind of a way.
Well, no, before it was kind of like, oh, if I wanted to go back and do this, well, I really want to write Wonder Woman, but I want to go back and do it where in the 60s, 70s, where she was in the white outfit, and like that's what I want to do. And they're like, oh, well, that'll be an Elseworlds, that'll be off universe. Where now it's just kind of like there is no Elseworlds anymore. It's kind of like it's all there.
Yes.
I guess. So
as part of the Omniverse, as part of Hypertime, as part of the Infinite Future, Hypertime like unravels and does this all kind of thing or something. I'm going to be reading it all again so I can make sure to understand the exact cosmology of it. Like anybody needs to, but I had a lot of fun with it. And just the element of the idea that Diana represents truth. And she was talking about how continuity is like a knot, and that crisis energy is so it's selfish energy almost. And it's saying that only these stories matter. And then she untied the knots basically and revealed the truth that it's all existed, you know, and it all has happened. And I mean, I think it's more true to real life, but you know me, we ain't putting the shades on, but yeah.
No,
that's one we didn't talk about. We got to finish the show with High Republic.
I was going to say real quick, did you read the Return of the Valkyries?
Oh, I did. I didn't like it.
I think it's just a way to get Thor Ragnarok Valkyrie into the Marvel comic.
Yeah, I think it's fine if you like those characters. If you've been following Jane Foster's Valkyrie and you were sad that series ended, pick this one up. But it doesn't really tie in severely to King in Black at all. The tie-ins have been weak for me.
The Venom, did you?
Yeah, I thought it was solid. I thought it was pretty decent. That's the book that Donnie is using to show the emotional resonance and nuance of what's happening to Eddie and what he's going through. Meanwhile, King in Black can maintain just being the balls to the wall roller coaster.
And then I didn't read it. I just really like the cover.
That's a great cover. That to me was like the cover of the week. But I'm done with Iron Man. I'm done reading Iron Man. I'm done reading X Factor. I'm done.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed with X Factor. It's one of those
it's so boring and dull.
It's one of those like I'm gonna have to get it just for my collection. Like I have to get it just for my collection to be a completist. But I mean, I guess I could learn not to be a completist and just get rid of it and just keep the keys and throw away the trash. So High Republic I really enjoyed.
Wait, was this a $12 book now? Someone said. Now, I knew that some of the covers had gone up, but the reason why, if this started spiking, the reason why is because of spec on first appearances.
Yeah, because they're going to do a TV show on it or a movie.
Did you get a key collector notification today, Mike? About it?
I just got the standard alert about it, like the hot books for the week, and pretty much everything that we picked up today. Everything we've talked about so far today it was on that. So. The Future State first appearance of new characters, Return of the Valkyries, first new Valkyrie.
Yeah.
I think everything we've talked about except for like Last Witch was on the hot list because of new first appearances.
Yeah.
So
So what did you think of High Republic, Mike? You're more of the Star Wars guy I was. I'll tell you real quick what I thought about it.
All right, go for it.
I thought it did a great job doing what a lot of comic books don't do anymore. For instance, what Eternals did not do. This was a better Marvel #1 this week than Eternals because
hands down.
It establishes everything in an enthusiastic and fun way. It introduces characters and concepts and ideas. It sets a base of operations, something to tie all the characters together. It sets it all up, right? And it still just tells one singular story. Do you get what I'm saying? It tells one story while doing all of this at the same time. Like an opening episode of a season of a series of Star Trek or something. This did a great job of setting this up. As a comic, it was okay. It wasn't anything super beyond fantastic. It wasn't anything bad. It was pretty solid, but I was really impressed because you don't get that in a lot of comics. Like Eternals didn't do it. They told us one story while introducing characters and world building and setting up subplots for the future. That felt way more old school because of that. And I loved it.
You could almost really do a compare and contrast between both of these books very easily. Like in Eternals, you get Iron Man that shows up. There's your recognizable face. And the Star Wars book, you get Yoda as your recognizable face. And the cool thing is Yoda being like 900 years old. Like this book can have been 400 years old, 400 years before, Phantom Menace. And so it's one of those like.
Well, I think somebody was trying to clarify that it's not necessarily High Republic's not replacing Old Republic, but it's kind of the era between Old Republic and Phantom Menace.
Well, no, the Old Republic with Revan, that's like 2,000-3,000 years.
Okay.
Before this.
So I was confused at first because I thought this was replacing Old Republic, but it's a new era kind of in between.
Old Republic is here, and then we're here. So this would be somewhere like in here. No, like this is like Yoda was like 900 years old. So you figure, 800 years going by Grogu. At 50 years old, he's still an infant, so maybe at 100 he's a 2-year-old, so he could easily be something like 400 years old right there. So with Yoda being 900 years old, and not a lot that we know about the aging of this race, like there's so much that you can do with this book, and it's great. And just looking at some of the way some of the ships are and some of the lightsabers and the technology, you can tell that it's a little different, and it's a little before the clone era. So, but I mean, I don't know what it is. It'd be nice to find out. But then again, it didn't matter.
Well, there's a book that came out this week or last week too, so maybe that sheds more light on it. I get it, because it's called Light of the Jedi.
And that's another thing. That's another thing too, where like you say that I'm a gatekeeper of Star Wars, and which I am not. I try I'm not because that falls into Cam. Like Cam is the one that's actually reading. I'm pretty sure he's almost done with the book.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because like he is the diehard Star Wars fan, and like it's talking to him. And I wish like a lot of these people could actually meet Cam. I mean, as chaotic as he is, like if you're like, oh, Star Wars sucks and like blah blah blah, it's the conversation we've had like 2 weeks ago. Like talking with Cam like every other day about Star Wars, it keeps your love going because he'll like if you don't like the movies, we'll read this. If you don't like this, then read this. Like if you don't like, oh, you want to know what happened with this? Read this, watch this. Like
because most people that don't like Star Wars don't like the idea that they focus so much on the Skywalkers. And Cam has explained to me many times that, well, the books, of course, go way far beyond that. And that's why there's such a love for that expanded universe that when I think Disney made their first false step when they said none of that matters.
Well, they have it. I think it was the stuff after. I think it was after Return of the Jedi that they're talking more about, because they still go back to the stuff before because they still talk about Revan in the comics.
Yeah.
So, and if it's in the comics, then it's canon. So I think it's more the future they were talking about and less of the past. But then again, I like going back into the past of the Star Wars universe and seeing it. I mean, it does. This issue does have a lot of similarities to. I mean, there's a little bit, not a lot, a little bit different. But the first issue of Old Republic, it's kind of similar. I really don't know. I really don't know until the issue 2 because of what happened at the end. I don't know. So it's one of those, but it's very similar to the way they set up the Old Republic comic from back in the Dark Horse days. So, I mean, I'm happy with it. I think it's cool. So I still want to see. I still like to see everything. So I'm hooked for it. Like it'll give me a run. I fell behind on the main series for Star Wars, but I got the trade yesterday.
Okay.
So I will get caught up on all of that and get back into the Star Wars groove. So I like when you force me to be on the show and make me actually read because it's just one of those things like, oh, I'll get to it when I get to it. And then like I'm 3 months behind everybody. I'm like, oh, this book's really great. And I'm like, yeah, where were you, 3 months ago?
Well, I didn't force you to be on the show, Mike. I asked you if you wanted to be on the show. I just told you had to actually read the books if you wanted to be on the show.
Yeah, I know, but like, whereas I would have probably read all of this, like I would have waited for like at least 6 issues of High Republic to come out before I would have sat down and read it.
Then why not just wait for the trade?
Because it's just something about reading the single issue that's not reading the trade.
I got
the early Star Wars stuff had a lot of speculation and hype, and so we sold through it. Same with like the Darth Vader. It's kind of like, oh, there's new character, and it's like, well, I can't read it now because there's no copies because speculators got it, but I'll wait for the trade and just forget about it. And that's one of the things working at a shop that I was always. There was more me. I was always like, all right, like I'll get it at the end of the day. Like, I don't care. Like, if there's one on the shelf at the end of the day, I'll get it and I'll read it. I never used to get my stuff before.
Gotcha.
Unless it was something that I knew. And we're lucky that Sanford doesn't work there anymore because anything that was hot, he'd pull it right out of your box. So I still never read Aerosmith, if you remember that book from way back when.
I know where my copies are. I'm pretty sure I can bring them to you if you want me to.
Yeah, I never read it because he pulled like that first issue was so like there was no spec hot. It was just writer artist hot, not spec hot. Because
it was music and moaning.
And there was
That's a good book. I like Aerosmith.
And there was no I've missed those days.
Or are you talking about the Aerosmith rock and roll biography?
No, I know you don't have that one.
No, I don't. Yeah. I got a Madonna one. I think that's the only one of those I have. Have a Madonna one, I think.
So, but yeah,
weird stretch, I know. Before we wrap up, anything else you read that you want to talk about? Since you read so many comics, so many new comics on release day for the first time forever. I hope this has re-energized and invigorated you, Mike.
No, like, I still read.
He's like, it's too much to read all these things, man.
Oh, it's not too much. It's not too much to read, but it's always. like I've got another like I've got to. It's like as soon as I'm done with this, it's like okay. I grant the fact that there's no everything keeps moving. So it's like, oh, cool. You want to? Somebody contacted me about making a small little piece of art for the back of their album because everybody I know that is making an album. So it's just like, oh yeah, like I'll do this real quick. I'll do this. So picking up stuff like that, all these little side jobs, it's kind of like, all right, cool. Like I need to come up with an idea, and comics is a nice refresher because you're like, oh, cool, and you just get a bunch of different art, different colors, different style, but you miss the story.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mike. This has been fun chatting with you about new comics today. I love chatting with
having me.
Oh, no problem. We'll do this again next week. Who's the guest going to be? Who knows? Who freaking knows? Could be anybody. You'll find out next week. GMAT says, I appreciate all your efforts and insights on comics. You really helped me out. Thank you. So you recommend Spider-Man? Ha ha. Smart ass. No, I don't. We're out. PCP Army Station.